Black against Zintos for C. All right, so we're gonna play a Caro. Again, in this speedrun, I play solid with black and very aggressive with white. That's the sort of spiel. So we play mostly Caro-Kann and Alekhine with black, although I'll branch out a little bit once we hit 1400. And Bishop F5 as we played yesterday. Advanced Caro. Thanks, Lono. I appreciate you helping enforce that. Okay. So what do we do now? What do we do now? Yeah, I do, Demon. That's what I play in my own games, but this is more classical Caro. Yeah, so we play e6. We control more of the center, and we play c5 when possible. Okay, Bishop g5 is a move that looks good, but actually isn't that great. Because it's sort of like shooting into thin air, right? Okay, the bishop looks good here with tempo, but it just doesn't produce the kind of effect that we want. And as Sky Bubbles points out, we have a beautiful spot for the queen on b6 attacking the pawn. And guess what? Once we play c5, that queen's going to be perfectly positioned to put pressure on this d4 pawn. And the bishop is just going to look like the guy who goes stag to prom. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But, you know, you might just have to shuffle back to c1 and, you know, stay where the food is at. All right. Okay. b3. I totally don't speak from... Okay, so b3 doesn't change our strategy. We go c5 and we put pressure on the pawn. That's the main idea of the advanced Caro for black. Stay where the kebabs are, exactly. Yeah, b3 is weakening, right? b3 weakens more squares here. c3 is weak. So his position starts to slowly crumble already. Knight c3. All right. So do we want to take on d4 is the key question. And this is a little complicated. The other move is just to go knight c6 and put the pressure on d4. And there is a specific reason that I don't like knight c6. Can anybody spot why that is? And it has to do, hint, hint, wink, wink, with this knight being on c3. It's threatening to go somewhere. Knight a4. Yeah, knight a4. And attacking the pawn and attacking the queen. And as I'll show after the game, that can be a very unpleasant idea in the Caro-Kann. And in the French, by the way, when the queen is on b6. It's annoying because he'll be able to root out the bishop on f8, and I want to keep this bishop. In fact, this is the bishop that can exploit the spin. So here would be a good spot to take on d4. Particularly because he's gone b3. So what move should we play now? So CD is correct, yes. This is a very juicy piece, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to drop the bishop back. Active play, bishop b4, attack knight with check. Yeah, and he's in some trouble here already. Okay, well, knight c6 wouldn't have been as effective because he can then take the bishop and break up my pawn chain. Maybe after this game I'll give a short take before I end, but mostly I'll talk about it more tonight, and I'll be back to play Blitz tonight. Okay, bishop b5. So does it impact what we do? Well, we don't want to move our... We actually might want to move our king. But let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just go knight c6. Covering the check and developing our knight. I think you move the horse for the prime. Yeah, this is very unpleasant. You can see how much this knight impacts how difficult it is to play white's position. Okay, queen f3, and he's just not able to sustain. I mean, he sees that the knight is hanging, but he forgets about the other knight. Just queen takes d4, and it's over. In fact, we might end up winning a second piece here. Thank you, Hot Mom. Thank you, Hot Mom Lover, for gifting to N86. Fab's music producer, that's absolutely not true. And, all right. Queen takes a1, and it's over. In fact, knight c1 we take. Well, this was pretty simple. This was a pretty easy game. Hey, Bruja. Good to see you. And bishop g5, like I said, is not great. The best move here is bishop e2. The best move here is bishop e2, and then castles. Very low key. But you keep keep things centered, and queen b6 is no longer as dangerous. Grand Z with a 5 gifted. Damn, girl, thank you for the 5. Much appreciated. Okay. So queen b6. Yeah. b3, c5. Knight c3, cd. I mean, so again, if we go knight c6 here, then knight a4 comes. Now, it might not seem like a big deal. Okay, he's attacking our queen. We can move aside with check, but it is a big deal. Now he drops the bishop to d2, attacks the queen again. Can't really cover with the knight because of the pin. And you might say, wait. We take on c2, that's a fork. But then queen takes c2. Oh, and this is beautiful. Look at this. Queen takes c2, right? If we take the queen, then bishop takes a5. And white is up a piece. But black can say, wait a second. I'm more clever than you are. I can play queen takes a4. And we're even again. But what can white do here? This is amazing. Queen takes bishop. Another Desperado sack. And finally, white wins the game because white's up a piece. Black has no more things to capture. That's amazing. I love these Desperado situations where the queens just take a bunch of pieces. That is a very funny line. But it's very thematic and very instructive. You just see how the Desperado works. Your queen's hanging. Let me give it up for something at the very least. Yeah, black can play queen takes d4, I guess, but it's only a pawn. All right. Yeah, so that's the reason why this is annoying. And if we move the queen back, then of course he can take the pawn, and I wasn't too hot about this. Thank you, Anonlog, for the prime. And so c takes d4, bishop b4. This is extremely unpleasant for white. I think he can stay alive if he plays... Yeah, it's very hard to just keep his pieces alive. I think in this position he should have played... I don't even know, queen d2, I guess. But then we can play something like queen a5. Now, of course, this is very bad for white. But something like this, I suppose, would have kept chances alive of some sort. All right. Okay. So that's a good, nice and short game. I mean, okay, he blundered all of his pieces here, but it's easy to do that when your position's sort of coming apart at the seams. We're going to play b3. We're going to play 1b3, which you guys have seen me play a million times. It's actually one of my main moves, actually. Proper. And it's the queenside bishop Svienket, also known as the Nimzo-Larsen opening. Now, there is very little that needs to be said about this move because its idea is obvious. You're Fiankettoing the bishop. Those of you who are saying lame, trust me, we're going to have some fun this game. And it is a hypermodern opening. We're not controlling any part of the center. We're doing it with our pieces instead. And the way that this is traditionally played, is in the most direct spirit of hypermodern openings, where all of your pressure occurs not... you're not building up your own center. You are purely attacking your opponent's center. So what we do here, and this is the old main line. Recently, people have started going knight f3. The old main line is to play e3. All right? We're controlling a little bit of the center, but the basic idea of this is to open up this bishop. Now, where should this bishop go based on what I just told you about the idea behind this opening? Bishop b5, of course, in order to attack the knight. We're already threatening to win a pawn. We're threatening to capture the knight and capture the pawn. And it may not seem problematic for black to defend it. It's not. Black can go d6. Black can even go bishop d6. That's one of the main moves. And black can go queen e7, but all of those moves have pretty big drawbacks. Queen e7 has the serious drawback that it's much harder now to develop this bishop. Okay. The obvious continuation is knight f3, and there's nothing wrong with that move. It puts more pressure on the pawn, but what is the drawback of playing knight f3? What can black do in response that may seem that actually is a little bit annoying? They will push the pawn to e4 and attack our knight again, and isn't the whole point to leave this pawn on the operating table here on e5? So what do we do about this? Well, we don't want to develop the knight to f3. Instead, we want to develop it to e2. But the point of this move isn't only to make sure that e4 doesn't come with tempo. There's a secondary plan that we are preparing. Now we have to take the knight. And you might look at this and say, wait a second, wasn't the whole point of this move to increase our pressure of this pawn. And now, well, this pawn isn't being attacked. So aren't we, doesn't our play kind of not make logical sense? That's not entirely true. We actually still can attack this pawn on e5 and put very significant pressure on it. In fact, I will tell you that black is already in trouble. I know it seems weird. 6 moves in, but black is already in trouble. How should we do that? Well, we can attack a pawn with our pieces, or we can attack it with our pawns. And the way to attack it with our pawns, we have 2 ways of doing it. We can play d4, but d4 blocks in our own bishop and allows him to play e4. So no, we should prepare the move f4, which will open our bishop up and basically tear open the position, which is good for us because this queen on e7, his king is going to be stuck in the center, and the position is generally wide open. So first let's castle so that our rook is going to be positioned in a way that will benefit from the f-file getting opened. And now let's play f4. Okay. Now, doesn't it weaken the king? It does. I've talked about this previously. The thing to understand is that not all kingside pawn moves are the same. G4 and H4 are far more weakening, generally speaking, than pushing up the f-pawn because we still have this cover. He doesn't have any pieces on the king side. We don't need to worry about this too much. Now we have a great diagonal, but we've got a couple of things to do here. He's probably going to castle long, and we need to think about how that impacts our continued strategy. All right. Before we think about our strategy, though, we need to finish our development. We have a knight on b1. That knight is not developed. We need to figure out where we want to put it. And this is where these openings are very hard to play for beginners and for people who are not too experienced with chess. And not because you're dumb or not capable of understanding something, but because they require, in many cases, unconventional developing moves because of the demands of the situation. So in this case, if we look at this knight and where it might belong, e5 seems like a great square. To reach e5, we have to go this way. So the knight has to go to Frankfurt Airport, then it has to go toward the center. Knight c3 is very awkward. It blocks in the bishop. That knight on c3 doesn't really have a good role. Okay, h5, let's get our knight to c4. It looks ugly, but guess how nice the knight might look once it reaches e5. We don't have to rush with knight e5, though. Another thing that people can struggle with, if we're going knight a3, knight c4, why are we hesitating about going knight e5? And that's because the threat is stronger than the execution. Right now, he can't cover that square. So perhaps we have more pressing matters that we want to attend to right now, and then go knight e5 at some later point. So what should we do? Well, we have a situation of opposite side castling. And generally speaking, in opposite side castling, he's already started his attack. We need to start our attack. And that's a pretty tall order because he's got a very, very secure pawn bumper on the queen side. But that's not to say we can't break it down. But we need to start. We need to frickin' get on with it. So let's go. Our plan is to go a4, b4, b5. I'll show you guys a classic game where a pretty weak player makes this happen. And once we do that, we want to make this pawn cover explode. He's playing extremely well, by the way, folks. Knight d5 is really, really nice. So this is double-edged. So let me think for a second. Let's move our queen out of the way of the rook, just for the future. I don't want the queen to be x-rayed. Let's make sure our queen can come to f2 in case we need to provide more protection for our own king. Now, the goal here ultimately is potentially to prepare b4, maybe do some related things. The move c3 would be way too awkward, though. It would block in the bishop, etc., etc. So, is there anything that can be done? Well, d3 opens up the center. I'll talk about it later. Think about what's preventing us from playing b4. These black pieces here. Let's go bishop a3. Now, yes, that involves bringing the bishop away from this diagonal. But we have more important things to do. Chess is a game where you have to constantly be shifting your strategies based on the demands of the position. Now we're going to go rook b1. We're going to continue preparing b4. It's not going to be easy to play this, but we're going to make an attempt. h4. Now h3 is not dangerous because we could respond with g3. Not too concerned about that. So let me think. Very tough opponent, actually, this guy. Very, very tough opponent. Okay. There's a couple of things that can be done here. I think the time has arrived now for us now to play c3. Previously, our bishop was on b2. Now, the urgency of needing to play b4 has superseded the urgency of looking cool or making pretty moves. We have to play b4. We need to open the b file. Okay. It's a bit of an odd move, but all right. I'm getting outplayed. It's come to my attention that I'm getting outplayed here. Okay, so let's see. Let's connect our rooks. And let's see what happens. G4. Let's go knight e5 to get rid, well, try to dislodge his bishop. Bishop back to c8. Okay. Well, let's try to expand our empire a little bit and make some room for the knight with knight c3 to come. Yeah. And this is when Naroditsky was exposed as the fraud that he is, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to say. Over Red Rover. This knight's going to get trapped with f6, I believe. Yeah. Let's see if he plays f6. Or will he start with a ultra-precise c5 first, perhaps? No, f6 immediately. Oh, c5 would have saved the knight. That is true. But I've lost hope given how skilled this guy is. And now a very complex decision, folks. Yep, which required precisely 3 seconds of thinking. Yeah, again, this always happens in the speedrun. Thank you, Jam Jam. These games always happen. Our policy is to withhold our accusations before the game is checked with an engine. I'm obviously extremely suspicious. I don't usually lose to 1400s, guys. But we will check the game to confirm. I'm about 97% confident, but there's no evidence yet. Yeah. I'm just a little mildly suspicious. Rook d3 here. This is a model game by black, guys. This is how you play chess, actually. G6. G6. Let's see. What I'm going to do here now, one pro tip, guys. If you're suspicious of somebody and you want to generate more evidence, try to make moves that like have a human reaction to them and a computer reaction to them, right? So for example, I'm gonna try to give you guys an example. Okay, let's try queen h5. See, thinking for 2 seconds. Oh, now he pre-moves. He pre-moved a move. The first move I think he played on his own was a mistake, but now, well, that's not the fastest mate, actually. This is him just playing. Watch him stalemate me. Okay, I think he's shown up now. Let me try to save the game. It's pretty close to being stalemate. You get maybe? Oh my god, he's still oh my lands. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my god. LMAO. Okay, so what we do is we load the game into ChessBase. Now, quick pro tip into how I check games. You can use chess.com's feature, guys. Yeah, definitely, Ryan. We'll do that. And I promised someone a game. You can use chess.com's feature, but I use ChessBase because I'll show you guys why. This is how professionals check games that they're suspicious about. Again and again and again, super important here to be evidence-based. That's one of the components to us addressing the cheating problem. Although, of course, it sounds lame. 1 sec, please. So let's take a look. b3, e5. Bishop b2, knight c6. Well, this was an attempt to play this opening. And you can already see, queen e7, I'm not familiar with, actually. It's not really a move that's... Now, the theoretical move is bishop d6, but it is the top computer move, interestingly enough. You guys should be able to see the text. Okay, I know it's out. So castles, bishop d7, top. I have the top 2 moves open, just to give us a little bit more perspective. e4, now f4 was already pretty bad. Knight a3, h5, top, top, top. We give it a second. We give it until like depth 25. You know, decent. Bishop a3 is top, by the way. h4 is top, top, and queen e8 top move. And that's I mean, queen e8. Queen e8 top move. You guys can see. I mean, he's not trying to hide it. Bishop c8 top move. He is not trying to hide it. f6. Every single move. Every single one. Literally. Is top stockfish. g6 too. g6 too. Hilarious. Now, does this give people joy? I just wonder. And I want to be clear here, because I do this speed run and people don't know who I am. So I'm not trying to act as if I'm some sort of saint. But with full due respect, this is different, so I don't know why this gives people pleasure. No, not in the middle of the game, in the end. He stopped in the end. He stopped cheating here. Right, because it literally was made in 2. Nobody plays this move. And then he had mate in 2 again, take the knight, which tells me that he knows very little about chess. With rook h1 mate. Yeah, I don't know if he wanted to troll me. Maybe he just played himself. Anyways. Wow, what a game. What a game. Insane. Queen e8 is the most insane. It doesn't make sense. No, what it does... Why is queen e8 the move? Because it unpins the... What it does is it unpins the queen. And the move b4 is stronger because there's a pin going on against the queen. So queen e8 gets the queen to safety, and also it potentially transfers the queen later when he plays f6 to h5 and f3 potentially. Yeah, why not queen e6? Nobody knows. This is insane. Well, I was suggesting it much earlier. Because, and this boils down to the very crux. It's not about a particular move. Some people don't always understand this. It's a general sense. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It's a general sense of being held at arm's length. That you're playing these human ideas, and you think you're playing reasonably, but you're not even in the same stratosphere as your opponent is. You're not even in the same mental space. The ideas are on a completely different level, and nothing phases them. Yeah. Well, I'll write his name down because this is the Speedrun account. I will message directly, but yeah. Okay. 20 bucks from Gremio. Love hearing your videos and learning from them. Thanks, Richard. You're very welcome, my friend. Would a GM find Queen A? No, never. Nobody would ever play Queen A. Magnus would not play Queen A in a Blitz game. No, impossible. Totally inhuman. No. Maybe by coincidence. You see, if you give me 10 of these positions, I might play it in one of them. But by and large, no. By and large, no. Sometimes you can find inhuman moves. And you need to give allowances for that. There are times when, you know, people have found sequences of crazy moves or ideas in a fit of inspiration, but that's different from doing it consistently. No. It's not about thinking time. I don't think he would play it in classical. It's about the logic of the move being so computerish and concrete that human logic can't lead you to it. I don't think Magnus would play it. What does it accomplish? Well, as I explained, folks, it unpins the queen from the bishop, right? So b4 was my idea. And it potentially prevents or prepares the queen to swing to f3 in a lobster pincer mate later when he plays f6. And he did that, actually. He did it. If you look later in the game, his queen landed on h5, and then it went to f3. So the fact that this occurred a million moves later is a very computerish thing to see, to sense that this will be good 10 moves down the line. But let's not focus too much on this one move. There were other moves too. Bishop c8 here. I mean, bishop g4 and then bishop back to c8, understanding that this knight on e5 is vulnerable to the move f6. And it's also not about the strength of the player. These moves are suspicious almost irrespective of who's playing them because of the time consumption. No human, not Magnus, not Kasparov, Hikaru, whoever, name, you know, the chess genius, it doesn't matter. It's impossible to consume this amount of time per move, and these moves are inaccessible to human logic for the most part.